All right, guys, it is Monday, August 15th, and the Give and Go show is back in your life. My name is Griffin, and I'm joined by my oh so lovely co host, Matt Modi, who is still lacking in a nickname. We talked about that last week. Over the next few weeks, we will continue to try and find this guy a nickname. I don't think we put a poll out yet, but we will sometime in the near future. Our other co host, Matt Ferentinos, he will not be joining us this week. He's busy on a beach somewhere. I think he's on vacation doing something that I imagine I probably think is less fun than this. He probably thinks it's a little bit more fun than this. But I meant to mention this to Moda before we got going. If we're ever like, pardon my take realm or something like that, Ferentinos is by far getting the smallest cut of the pie. He will absolutely get paid the least out of all of us. He's already taken a vacation 2 weeks in.
40, 40, 20.
Yeah,
45,
fine.
45,
that's
10.
fine. That's fine. Yeah, 45, 45, 10 sounds excellent.
Sounds much better. Yeah.
I imagine he'll push back on that a little, but he'll just go on vacation during negotiations.
And he's not here to defend himself. So
exactly. Before we get going, I do want to mention, if you're not currently following us on Twitter and Instagram, make sure you go follow us on those platforms at Give Go Show on both Twitter and Instagram. Modi also made us a TikTok this past week. So we're on TikTok now as well. Where you'll see some of the same content that you'll see on Instagram, some of the same content that you'll see in YouTube Shorts, but probably a couple different things as well. So make sure you go follow us. I think it's at the Give and Go Show. Is that right?
It sounds right. I can confirm. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, we're gonna say it's at the Give and Go Show, and if it's not, I'm gonna put something up on the screen, and it's gonna cover both of our faces. It's gonna have the correct handle for us.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's the Give and Go Show.
Pew pew, gunshot noises. Let's go. All right, so make sure you're following at Give Go Show on Twitter and Instagram, and at the Give and Go Show on TikTok. And yeah, we're back. Another week of NBA news, analysis, our takes for what's going on in both basketball and the NBA as a whole. Before we get going, click the like button, click the subscribe button. We were on the Odds Jam channel last week, so thank you to anybody who's joining us now that we're no longer on the Odds Jam channel, and thank you to Odds Jam for letting us do our first episode on that channel. Hugely appreciative of that. That was very cool of them. And if you're not currently subscribed to them on YouTube, pause this episode and go subscribe to them. Make them happy, so they let us do things like that again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Modi, anything you want to jump into before we get going? Kind of just got a lot of news this week. Don't really have any.
Not a ton happened in the NBA world. We were talking about our dogs prior to recording, and I was thinking about this. So you are one of the rare people who understand the double dog life. It's I'm also a double dogger, and sure. I don't know. I wanted to ask you what yours are like on walks, because one of them, I mean, they're polar opposites. One of them is constantly pulling, just wants to go. The other one has to sniff every square foot of the entire universe thoroughly before he can even think about taking a step.
Sure.
So it's quite difficult. Me and my girlfriend will walk them, and it's like, if she doesn't stop while the one I walk sniffs, she'll finish the walk 6 times before I can even make it down the block. So I just want to know other double dog walking experiences.
God, that's a good question. Before I jump into mine, are your dogs similar in ages? Is there one that's significantly older?
There's about one's 2.5, one just turned 1 like early in June, so like 14 months.
Okay, all right.
So pretty similar.
Got it. Okay, so my male dog, the one that we've had for about 2.5 years now, he's about 3.5. When he's by himself, he's good. We probably do 5 or 6 walks a day. We probably end up doing like 8 or so miles a day. He's good. And you might hear my other dog crying in the background because she wants attention. So I do apologize for that. He's good for probably 5 of those 6 walks. And like, he'll pull a little bit. Like, he likes to be at the end of the leash, but he's gotten good at not pulling past the end of the leash, but he's not the kind of dog that walks next to you
when it's like fully taunt, but he won't push more than that.
Yeah. Although I will say there's usually one walk, maybe not every day, but every other day or so, where he's like, fuck this, I want to choke myself. And I don't know if it's like a masochistic thing. I don't know what it is. The other dog, my female dog that we got a month and change ago, she's about 6 months, 7 months old. Not a great walker. If she's by herself, she doesn't want to walk at all. She can't even make it down the block. She'll go outside, like we'll rush her to the grass so that she can use the bathroom. And then like I'll try and take her 5 houses down just to go to the stop sign and like swing it back. She doesn't want to do it. If the two of them are together, I have to coax her along a little bit, but she will follow him. Like she does get more excited for a walk if it's the two of them together. And so my partner and I, we try and take them as often as we can together, because otherwise she's not going to walk and it's not going to be good for any of us. But I like walking him a lot more than I like walking her. I'll say that, because he loves to walk. She'd rather be doing anything else.
That is interesting. It's like not an energy thing. It's not like she's like tired, right? I'm assuming.
No, because we go inside the house and she's like, let me destroy everything. Let me bark at my parents. Let me, like eat. Yesterday, she ate the remote control for our sound bar. I turned away for 2 minutes. Like I was running around the house, I think making something, and I turned back around and she's just destroying things in the living room. Puppy energy, I think, is part of it. But
yeah, yeah, that's funny because when I first got my dog, he was a typical quarantine puppy. Like got him at the beginning of quarantine 2020 rescue. Like was so weird about walking. Like it's like he's like also incredibly anxious. So I wonder how much of it is like, no, I don't want to leave the comforts of what I know my home to be. So like anytime we would get like around the corner where he couldn't see our house anymore, he would like lay on the ground and like refuse to walk.
Sure.
Now it's so typical dog stuff. I would imagine, I don't know, 7 months is older, but will probably grow out of that, and but they learn to enjoy their walks.
My boy will he'll only do the lay down thing if he's like exhausted. Like sometimes I do push him too far, and I don't realize it at the time, but like he's not great with cold. He's not great with heat. I should
needs
probably,
a very middle temperature.
It's part of why I moved to like Southern California, because we were like the temperature will be great for him, but even this is like sometimes a little bit too hot for him, even though it's like temperate weather, 85% of the year. I've had to carry him down like a small mountain before, because he laid down. He just didn't want to go down anymore.
No, I'm good.
And he's like 65 pounds. So that wasn't great.
That's rough. You get one of those like packing things where you can just like almost like wear him like a backpack.
Wear him like a backpack. Yeah. We've talked about it. He fortunately does not lay down too much on walks.
Well, 8 miles
she will try.
Is a lot. I don't blame him. 8 miles is a lot.
We do. So part of that is before we get into the basketball talk, clearly we're talking about dogs.
Yeah, I got an Apple Watch
recently. Yeah, I got an Apple Watch recently, and for my birthday in May, so my mother got me an Apple Watch, and I'm now obsessed with how many steps I take and how many miles I go every day and all that.
Classic,
ratcheting it up, and I guess a lot of people go through this.
Yeah,
and I'm forcing him to suffer with me. So like I wake up in the morning, we do a long walk, early afternoon long walk, late afternoon long walk, after dinner like decent sized walk with the dog, and then around like 11 p.m. if I like personally feel like I haven't hit my goals for the day, even if I've like exceeded them by like a ton of minutes and a ton of calories and all that, 11 p.m. rolls around and I'm like, Vino, let's go for a walk. I'll throw on a podcast. Occasionally, because I'm incredibly egotistical, I'll throw on one of my own podcasts and we'll just go for a walk for an hour. And so like those are the walks that he loves, because it's cold out at that point.
The nice weather. So what do you get, like 20K steps a day?
Something like that. Yeah. Usually a low end is like 15, 16,000, and then a high end, maybe 22.
That's pretty good. It's a lot more than I get.
My shoes don't fit me, so my feet are shot right now.
Yeah, you got to get some walking shoes. Get some Allbirds.
I ordered 3 pairs of shoes in this past week because I'm sick of my feet hurting all the time.
Yeah, that's probably smart.
We'll see how they go. I'm going to be the old man with the New Balances, and I'm going to feel great about it.
I mean, but isn't that Kawhi? Isn't he a New Balance? Isn't he a New Balance guy?
And New Balances are like kind of back right now.
They're coming back. Yeah.
When I was wearing New Balances growing up because I got massive feet. Like I have NBA player feet without any of the NBA player talent.
It's just the feet.
And I wore New Balances back then, and it was like $60-$70 for a pair of New Balances. The New Balances that I just bought, like today, both pairs were $180 each.
Each?
Like they're like Jordan costs, because New Balances are like hype now, and they're foams. Like they're nice shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they've been dad shoes for so long. They had to be good. They had to be good quality.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They've always been the most comfortable shoes you can get.
Yeah. They're just
now they're like, maybe it's through Kawhi. I think maybe it's other athletes they work with. Maybe it's just because anything that's like not good, eventually hipsters get into.
It's true.
I love New Balances. I'm feeling good about it. I can't wait to wear them. It's been years since I've had a pair.
Yeah, I mean, I probably haven't had them since I was a child. I was trying to look up New Balance sponsored athletes, but it's nothing exciting.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would be. It was kind of out of left
It's the
field
most
for him.
Kawhi. It's the most Kawhi
It
thing in the
is. It
world.
is the most Kawhi thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, let's get into some
I
basketball
guess we can
talk.
transition that into basketball.
I mean, Kawhi Leonard, if he were to ever play basketball, we could transition
True.
that into
If
basketball
he
talk.
could play, yeah, if he did ever play again.
My great hope for the Give and Go show 2022, 2023 is that we get a lot of opportunities to talk about Kawhi Leonard because when he is healthy, the league is more fun.
Yeah, I still haven't. Every time I see him, I just shudder inside because I haven't gotten over the Sixers Raptors series from like 3 years ago. Just
Sure.
absolutely stole
Everyone on the edge of their seat waiting for that ball to drop.
and I don't know what happened to the Raptors, but nobody wanted to shoot the ball outside of Kawhi. Nobody Fred VanVleet was terrible that series. Siakam was terrible.
Well, that was before Van Vliet had his son.
Yeah, before he had a kid,
and then he had his kid, and he was like, "I am unleashed."
Exactly, but that series, I'm telling you, nobody wanted to shoot the ball, and they were that team was dying to give up, and then Kawhi Terminator just wouldn't let it happen.
Yeah, yeah. I think in the finals he didn't do it as much. I think people like to compare, or they like to kind of condense his entire playoff run into his finals run. And they're like, yeah, Kawhi was like the biggest part for them in the finals. And he was. There's no doubt that he was. But he was very clearly like running on fumes by the time the finals.
He was limping around the rest of the playoffs.
I don't think there's a point where he's walking up and down the court where he doesn't have like a hitch in his gait.
Yeah, he was gassed. And it just shows how good he was because he still dominated despite having one leg. But
yeah, he was doing that on like nerve damage.
Yeah, he was gassed. But I don't know what happened after.
He's one of the best mid-range shooters ever. So all he had to do was get 16 feet out and take an elbow jumper.
Yeah, just gets to a spot. Yeah, I mean, nobody wanted to do anything on that Raptors team, and they still, and just all they needed was Kawhi. So
not a Raptors fan by any means, but that was a very fun title to watch. Not for you, I imagine.
I hated every second. I wanted them. I thought if they won, he was going to go back to Toronto, and that's the last thing I wanted.
So I thought he was going to go to the Lakers because I'm a Lakers fan, and I think everyone's going to go to the Lakers.
Well, yeah, of course. Talk about egotistical Lakers fans.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know if I chose the Lakers because of my ego or my ego is what it is because I chose the Lakers. But, I am who I am.
I wonder that about Boston sports fans. Are they all assholes? Did they grow up, were they always assholes? Or did they have so much success in the sports world that they just became assholes?
From what I understand, because I mean, obviously the term masshole has been a thing for a long time. Even when all those teams were losing, like when the Patriots were bad, when the Red Sox obviously had the long-term curse. When
they're still assholes.
The Celtics had the down periods of like the 90s and all that. They were still assholes. Like there was a long period where outside of, I mean, I guess they had, and this is the thing about the Boston sports fans in general also, like even when their teams are bad, they're still like good regular season teams. You can go back and look at those Red Sox teams.
Oh yeah, they're always good.
Win anything, and they're still very good teams.
Yeah,
they just didn't win the big one.
And the Patriots went to a Super Bowl in the 90s. I forget what year, but I know they went to a Super Bowl. The Celtics, I feel like, rarely were like just bottom of the NBA.
Right. And the Celtics had the weird stuff where Bird's prime ended a lot sooner than you would have thought because of his back. And then you have the Len Bias stuff. Yeah. And they just weren't really able to transition very well. And then they were able to pivot out of that because of Kevin McHale and the Timberwolves essentially giving them their best players because Kevin McHale was always a Celtics guy before he was a Wolves guy. We don't need to talk about it on this episode, but I've got a lot of words about Kevin McHale. And the Timberwolves to Celtics pipeline. As a Lakers fan.
To that than Kevin Garnett? Because I honestly don't know.
Well, it was Garnett, it was Pierce. And then they basically took, I mean, Pierce was already there, but there was talks about Pierce potentially leaving the team at that point. And essentially Kevin McHale was like, this is the backroom deal. No one knows if this is exactly what was said, but he was like, we're going to give you Kevin Garnett for pennies on the dollar because Garnett wants to win and I want to help the Celtics out. And they gave a lot of assets up for Kevin Garnett, but they're all very middling to below average assets. And they really didn't do that much to turn the Timberwolves into there was nowhere for the Timberwolves to pivot out of that. particularly because their front office was so bad.
Yeah, they're all
And so it was
morons.
basically like just making the Celtics good at the expense of the rest of the league.
That's fun. Yeah, it reminds
Which
me
is
of
why the whole thing with how they treated Ray Allen after the fact when he tried to leave was like, well, the Celtics were trying to trade him. Like, why wouldn't he go to a different team on his own terms if the Celtics so clearly were like given these riches and they were just going to use them to acquire more assets the second it stopped working out for them?
Yeah, typical Danny Ainge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the James Harden trade, like the very very first one to the Rockets. Like they got the OKC had nothing to show for that trade, and gave up like a top whatever player in the league, and they got like Kevin Martin was like the big
Yeah, because
splash.
they were like, we're not going to pay you, and everyone at that point knew that James Harden's value. If you're another GM and the team that like you're trying to trade for a superstar player or a potential superstar, which is what he was at that point,
At that point,
and
yeah,
his team has already said we're not going to pay you. Okay, you already know his value is significantly lower than it should have been. Like they should be saying that they're going to pay him up until they trade him. You
yeah,
never want to have it come out there that you don't want to meet a guy's offer at
yeah,
the same time that you're trying to trade him because everyone else is like, okay, so he's not worth 100 million. He's only worth 75.
yeah.
We're
They
not going to
tanked their
offer you as
leverage.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which has, kind of been a thing with Harden in multiple stops now. Like
yeah. I
through
mean,
partly through his own fault and partly through the GMs and owners that he's working with, the teams that he's being traded from do not have the leverage that they should.
yeah, the Rockets thing. He like showed up like wearing a fat suit and like wasn't trying, but they
Was
still
that
got
ever proven? Was
it.
it
Wasn't
proven that he
proven.
was wearing a fat suit, or was he like he does the same thing that Melo does, where he wears like the padding underneath? Did he
Yeah,
like double up on the padding or
yeah.
something? Like he
Harden seems
looked
like
big.
he did. Harden seems like the kind of guy, and this is also of Zion, where he has a bad weekend, and like we'll show it. Like he will get
Yeah,
tubby over the course of like 4 days.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like he's like one bad weekend away from getting tubby, and I think he just had an entire bad like summer after the bubble.
yeah. I mean, look, at 22, I would have said that's physically impossible. No one can do that. At 30, if I have a bad 4 days, I
Oh,
look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I'm a disgusting human being, and I'm like, no one expects me to look like a professional athlete. So obviously, there's a bigger magnifying glass on James Harden than there is on me.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
But well, anyways, what do we have? What are we talking about this week?
Yeah, let's transition out of that fun topic to a not so fun topic. Before we get going into anything else, we got to talk about it a little bit. Bill Russell passed this past week, or like a little over that ago. League wide retirement of number 6. Obviously, rest in power to Bill Russell, one of the most influential players of all time, both as an NBA player and as a human being, civil rights activist, incredibly well spoken, intelligent. Leader. I don't even just want to say normal person. He's a leader of his community, leader within the sport, leader within the NBA. Don't have enough good things to say about him, despite the fact that he was on the team that I was shitting on a minute ago, the Celtics. Obviously, the greatest Celtic of all time.
Yeah, speaking of the Celtics, dealt with a lot of shit from the Celtics fans, despite being an absolute fucking legend for that team.
Is there a pun intended on that? Was it Bill Russell that they shit in his bed, or was it Kareem when he was in Milwaukee?
I think it was Bill Russell. I'm pretty sure it was. It actually wasn't. I actually didn't, but I think you're right. I think he like came home from a road trip, right? I think
Yeah,
him
and
his
there was
family
shit in his bed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. I'm almost positive that was Bill Russell.
Yeah, I know Kareem dealt with other stuff when he was in Milwaukee, and like it was a foregone conclusion that he was not going to re-sign with Milwaukee when he pushed his way to the Lakers. Bill Russell, there's other stuff outside of the shit in his bed. I think maybe people were leaving like, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I might be confusing him with somebody else. I think people were graffitiing like racial terms on his house and things like that. Like, I think he got a lot of it.
A lot of that stuff came out like people just roasting Boston sports because they're horrible fans. Came out when he passed. So anyway, yeah, and not to go on a tangent there, but yeah, absolute legend. I saw like some really dumb stuff about like criticism for the NBA for retiring number 6.
Really?
Yeah, just because like I don't know, like classic NBA trying to like appeal to like the whatever you want to call him. I personally don't really see a downside to it. Like he's a
the liberal
legend.
elite, the left,
yeah, literally,
media.
yeah.
Jesus Christ!
Like I have a lot of bad things to say about Adam Silver, but I don't think that he handled it. I think this was a good, like pretty like easy to say right decision, like not non-controversial. Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense to do it. Couple different things. At one point, the Heat tried to petition for every team to do this for Michael Jordan. And outside of the Chicago Bulls, they ended up being the only team that retired his number, which of course led to LeBron James choosing number 6.
Number 6, yeah.
But like there was a previous call to retire a number league wide in the league that Pat Riley kind of was leading the charge on for Michael Jordan. Obviously didn't end up happening. And then in basketball, doing this for Bill Russell, baseball has done it for Jackie Robinson. Hockey did it for Wayne Gretzky, not for a civil rights reason, not for a, pioneer of the game reason. They did it because he's the best to ever play, and no one was ever going to feel comfortable wearing the number again. And I think you could say that for Bill Russell too.
Yeah, I mean, who else? I can't even think of who like LeBron's number 6. Is there another prominent NBA player? I'm probably blanking. That's number 6.
Probably, but I wouldn't know off the top of my head. I'm really not great with remembering what people's numbers are. But I mean, it's this is the second time LeBron's not going to be able to wear a number. Although I think they said if you're currently wearing it, you are grandfathered in.
You're grandfathered in. I saw that. So I think he's still good.
I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he changed it anyways. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was pressure from Nike for him to change it, because that's an entire additional set of jersey sales that they can make money on.
23 Lakers jerseys,
the capitalist version of it.
Yeah,
I don't know, but rest in power to Bill Russell. I'm in favor of them retiring number 6. I think it's the right move.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like Bill Russell. First off, there aren't that many dead Hall of Famers. I think at the time of Kobe's death, and there's been a few since then, I think Kobe was maybe the second or third Hall of Famer to have passed away, because the NBA is so young.
Because it merged, because the merger was like so late, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
The reason why?
Yeah. There was ABA players back in the day. That passed away. But that were NBA Hall of Famers, or I guess Naismith Hall of Famers, whatever the name of their hall is. Yeah. There are not that many guys that have passed away that have been Hall of Famers. Bill Russell, I think, might be like the 5th or 6th. So there hasn't been that many opportunities to have like a league-wide retirement yet. He is one of the first ones, and the guy has an absurd number of titles.
He still has
an
the
absurd
most
number of MVPs.
Right? Doesn't he still have the most titles?
He's the perfect guy to do it to.
Nobody passed him, right? Doesn't he still have the most titles with 11?
He has 11, right? Yeah, 11 and 13 tries or something like that.
Yeah, I think Robert Horry is, funny enough, is the closest one, because he just played for
at 7.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure nobody's got. I'm pretty sure Bill Russell's still number 1.
No, I mean, you can count guys like you could count a Steve Kerr who's got coach and player titles. You could count Phil Jackson, who's got 2 with the Knicks and 11 between the Lakers and Bulls. So I think he has the most total. It's either him or like Red Auerbach that has probably the most total.
As a player, it's Bill Russell with 11.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but you're right. 11 for 13. And then I guess there's some other players in the Celtics that have like 7, 8, 9, 10 that were all on those same teams. But Robert Horry with 7 is the closest non-Celtic.
Yeah, and I mean Robert Horry, whatever you want to say about him, role player. Like, and that's okay. It's okay to be Big Shot Bob. Like that's great, but it's very different than being in the
best player.
Bill Russell 100%. Or Michael Jordan or somebody's in. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, same thing with Steve Kerr, who got however many with the Spurs and the Bulls, with like as a player, role player.
5.
3 with the Bulls,
3 with the Bulls, 2 with the Spurs.
I think that's right.
And then now he's at 4 with the Warriors.
Yeah,
because he didn't. I mean, obviously the Suns haven't won one, so he didn't get any from his tenure as their president.
No.
Yeah, that's a lot. Steve Kerr doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean that guy. I mean,
most interesting life.
Yeah, with all the stuff with his dad and like with how outspoken he is about everything, which is great. But like that guy is going to write a great book when he retires from basketball, playing with the Bulls, playing with the Spurs, being the architect, one of the architects of the Suns, 7 seconds or less, and then like being part of the Warriors, which is going to be what people remember from this era of basketball. Right. Dude's going to write a hell of a book whenever he hangs it up.
Dude, give me a 10-part Netflix Last Dance for Steve Kerr. just like they did it because they did like the flashbacks to Michael's past and then his run with his team, and then obviously him now. Do that for Steve Kerr, except obviously it's going to be a little bit more political. You're going to have more of him like being a coach. So you're going to have like it's oh my god, I would love that.
Oh yeah, me too. I love. I mean, by all accounts, an awesome human being.
Yeah. Again, unless you're one of those people who innately hates the liberal elite, and you think that he's a virtue signaler because he has political beliefs that he's not afraid to talk about.
Yeah. Which
I don't know if this is clear to anybody that's listening or watching this, but we
swing one way.
That's a dumb take. Yeah, we're on one end of the political spectrum, and we're unafraid to say it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to something else. Again, rest in power, Bill Russell. Now we're going to go in the complete opposite direction. We're going to talk about a guy who is not in the league yet. There's a lot of speculation that Bronny James, who I think at this point is 17, so he has one more year of high school.
I believe that's correct.
There's a lot of speculation that rather than going to the G League Ignite and having that direct prep to pro pipeline, he is instead going to go to college, potentially USC, UCLA. Obviously it's going to be bigger schools. You're going to look at some California schools. You're probably maybe going to consider like a Kansas or something like that. Probably not going to consider Duke, which I think that was what was always rumored for a long time, is that because I think LeBron James said that if he could go to any school, he would have gone to Duke to play for Coach K. Coach K is not there anymore. So now he's just Mr. K, which I'm happy about. Bronny James, you think he should go to college? You think he should go to the G League Ignite? What do you think about it? Does it matter because he's not an NBA talent?
Ranked number 38 out of ESPN's top 100. Is he really not an NBA talent? I actually didn't know that.
He is.
Like if he wasn't LeBron's
he's
son.
Like a late second round pick kind of guy, or potentially like a G League to the NBA. If he wasn't LeBron's son, nobody would not. He's just not big enough to like, he doesn't have LeBron's build.
Yeah. I mean, LeBron.
The younger son, Maximus.
I don't know.
Something like that.
Was he in Space Jam?
I didn't watch it. I don't know.
It was a tough watch. We don't need to get into it. Yeah, it's a tough watch.
Yeah. So the second son apparently is built more like his father. I think he's like 14. And I think he's taller than Bronny. And so he might still have some room to grow. I think Bronny's got not a knock at all, but he's got too much of his mom's genetics. His mother is not a tall woman.
Yeah.
Like, she's not a tiny woman by any means, but she's not
NBA level.
Yeah, LeBron James listed at 6'8", probably walks a little bit closer to 6'10".
Yeah,
kind of person.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up going to Ohio State. I know, like, I think that there's so much like LeBron, and credit to him, is like such strong ties to Ohio. Sure. Didn't he say that like if he couldn't go straight to the NBA, he would have gone to Akron to stay at home? Didn't he like? I know he said
so. He had said that before, and there's definitely like schools. I think he had talked about Ohio State at one point. I don't think he necessarily said he would have gone to Duke. I think he said if he could have gone to college and played for any coach, he said K, and so everyone was like, okay, well, K coaches Duke. But I think it was more about the coach than the school itself.
Yeah, I think my interpretation of that was like, if he could choose now to go to college, like if he put himself back in high school, he would choose Coach K. But I remember him, like, I don't think he actually would have, because like all under the table money in college sports, someone would have paid him to go somewhere else. But I'm pretty sure he came out and said he would have gone to Akron to stay close to home.
Part of why I think that Bronny might end up in Kansas, because Kansas is not unafraid to pay.
Yeah, well, now
they were not unafraid to pay before they were allowed to pay. So I imagine they're still going to be willing to.
What's it called? NIA, name, image, or NIL, name, image,
likeness? NIL, name, image, likeness.
Yeah, you can get paid now. So I think I would probably still get, like I said, Ohio State, but I mean, it's either that or one of the LA schools. I would imagine it's probably US, but those are like, I mean, UCLA I guess isn't bad, but USC hasn't been good in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna hope that Bronny James is really into thirst traps in Tempe, and he decides to go to Arizona State.
Arizona State.
So he and I can come from the same alma mater.
I mean, you got James Harden, so right? James Harden?
Yeah, James Harden, ASU guy.
Yeah.
Probably, and not probably, the best player in our history as a school.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who else went. I know Arizona's got some like really good
Arizona's
players.
Got some absurd talent. ASU does not.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody. I'm like, one of my favorite things in the world is like where this player went to
I
college.
mean, Lou Dort.
Did he?
Lou Dort, potential future All-Star if he keeps on the same trajectory. I think he might have a couple of years in him.
Thunder paid him certainly like he is one.
Yeah.
He got some money. Yeah, I mean his defense is like can be like game changing. It's just if his offense can catch up.
It's very up and down. He's kind of what I think a lot of people thought Robert Covington was going to be, where there were like flashes that Rocco was going to be good at offense, and like he'd stroke from three for a few games, and people were like, man, if he gets this ball handling down with that level of defense, he's going to be out of this world. And he never did. Yeah, like he just never learned how to dribble. His layup package is basically non-existent, and he's not even that good of a shooter anymore.
He's really streaky. Like he can hit from range, but he'll go like he's really streaky. Like I remember from his Sixers days, like I think he's an awesome person. So like, and he's like a typical process guy. So Philly loved him, but it was a love-hate.
I loved watching him play because he was one of those dudes where I was like, this guy's either going to like be lights out or he's going to sink you. And I'm willing to watch to see what he does. Yeah. I watched a lot of Sixers basketball during the process days because it was so interesting. And it was
when
like
wins don't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing with how I feel about the Washington Nationals right now. Like, yeah, we're not going to win 60 games this season. That's okay. I get to watch a lot of prospects. I don't have to stress about the wins. And like maybe 5% of these guys end up being like legitimate MLB talents for the Nationals. And cool. That's awesome. I got to see them from like the ground level.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I totally get that. I'm like such a draft nerd and stuff too. And there's something so freeing about not caring if your team wins or loses. Like the Sixers process years was the most unstressful sports fandom period of my entire life because I didn't even care if they won the game or not. Like I didn't.
You were trying to set loss records. Like you were literally like actively trying to be the worst team of all time. That's pretty cool.
It was fun. It was quite fun.
And unlike the Bobcats, I think it was the Bobcats. It was before they were the Hornets, right? They did it by accident. I'm pretty sure.
Same thing.
I don't think they intended to be that bad.
No, same thing with the Nets when they were like the post KG and like they were like
KG trade.
Didn't even have their picks and they were still really bad.
Yeah, well, that was the worst part about it is that like they were bad with nothing. They couldn't even gain anything from it if they tried.
Yeah,
I wish Ferentinos was here because I'd love to hear his thoughts on it.
That is brutal.
Yeah, just not great. Not great for that team, and I feel like it's just so indicative of who they are as an organization that immediately after getting out of that funk, they then took a big swing on superstars who have known issues gelling with teams.
Yeah, I will say like history is going to look back and laugh on the Nets, rightfully so.
I'm going to look back and laugh.
But if like one of one of Kyrie or Harden don't get hurt in last year's playoffs, they waltz to the finals. Like that team last year was absolutely loaded. Like that was an incredible.
Despite going 0-4 against those Celtics, they arguably played them the closest throughout that entire playoff run.
I mean,
like they got swept in every single. I mean, like I think the total margin of victory across the series might have been like 12 points. Like it was very low.
Yeah, you wonder if that end of game one goes differently. The Tatum layup buzzer beater. Like what? The Celtics still probably win. But it's not. I mean, obviously, it's not a sweep. But I think it ends up being closer than it was.
It's the same question you got to ask for the year prior. The KD foot on the line. If it's not a 2.
Yeah.
Who's to say? I mean, I was pretty confident that year that the Bucks would not be denied. Although I was kind of pretty confident about that this past year as well. And then Middleton got hurt, so you never know how injuries are going to play out.
Yeah.
But yeah, things could have gone very differently for the Nets, and we would be having a very different conversation about that big swing. But they haven't gone differently.
But they didn't. Yeah,
so I'm willing to laugh at them about it.
Yeah, I'll go to my grave. That Nets team was incredible last year, and I think they beat the Bucks in 5 if Harden and Kyrie stay healthy. If one of them stays healthy, probably
with Middleton hurt. Or
the last year's playoffs.
Oh, last year's okay. 2021.
Correct. Not this most recent year, the year prior.
Sure.
That was an incredible, like Joe Harris was healthy. Like that was an incredible basketball team.
Yeah.
With the three.
And they were a lot of fun to watch. And if you like ISO ball, Like they had three guys when they were each healthy, and they were barely healthy at the same point, or you had the Kyrie vaccine stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
They had three guys who were probably in the top 8 or 9 or 10 for ISO players in the league at the same time.
It's insane.
That's
And I feel
crazy. Like you never have to worry about your offense freezing up.
And their defense was like surprisingly good in the playoffs.
I mean, that's always kind of been Kevin Durant's thing. He
can play
when the going gets tough. He can play defense. James Harden, in very specific positions on the court, when the going gets tough, he can play defense. Great post defender.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, you play him a size up. He could be a fun. He's thick. He's squatty.
Yeah, Kyrie, obviously not a great defender, doesn't have the build to be a great defender, doesn't have the instincts to be a great defender, but he's fine in a team defense. Like, he's not a great individual defender. He tries to gamble for steals, kind of like Westbrook does, kind of like Isaiah Thomas used to do.
Yeah.
Like, he's an undersized guy. But if you have that much offense, you can deal with Kyrie Irving being a negative defender.
Yeah, and then you had like Claxton, incredible defender, Bruce Brown, incredible defender.
Yeah, well, if they played Claxton, that would have been the case. But
yeah,
they would have rather had bad players on the court. I mean, obviously Claxton has his issues. Can't hit a free throw.
Offensively, he's a net negative.
Yeah, he's garbage. But
when you have three,
if you have three All NBA talents on the court,
exactly.
Don't give him the ball. Just let him play defense. You can literally have a 4-on-5 situation. And if three of those four guys are James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, you're not at a major disadvantage.
Yeah. You could have me and you on the court, and we would have a league above average league offense with those three.
Yeah, dude, my fouls per 36 would be out of this fucking world.
I'd just spot up. I'd be a poor man's Joe Harris.
I'd be getting blown by and just slapping the shit out of guys on the way past. Oh man, I do not have that level of athleticism. People be like, "Oh, that guy's like semi-tall. He could dunk." No,
yeah,
he can't. Maybe at 21, maybe at 21 I could dunk. At 30, I can barely leave the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I could dunk a tennis ball in my athletic days. Now, if I don't hurt myself attempting to jump, it's a success. It's a win.
I talked earlier about how I am in pain from taking too many walks per day. I certainly can't dunk.
Well, maybe it's just the shoes.
Yeah, I'm going to blame the shoes. I'm going to blame the shoes. I'm going to blame whatever athletic shorts I'm wearing. I'm going to blame a lot of things outside of myself. I'll blame my parents a little bit. Like, they should have been more athletic.
It's probably majority your parents' fault because just genetics,
Yeah. Although I am the tallest person in my entire family, including the extended family. So that
can't complain too much.
Yeah, I can't complain about that part of it, but like I can't jump over a phone book.
Yeah. Isn't that like Michael Jordan is like significantly the tallest person in his family? He's like an anomaly how tall.
I think his brother is like 5'11".
Yeah, it's like an anomaly how tall he ended up being.
I don't know if Anthony Davis has siblings. I don't know what Anthony Davis's parents look like. I imagine, based on how Anthony Davis grew, that he is the tallest person in his family by a significant margin, because that dude was like 6'3" until he turned 17, and then he was 6'11" within a year.
Yeah, you're probably right. At the late
which is also why I give Anthony Davis a little bit of a pass when like he hits the ground and is rolling over in pain. Because I imagine that every single second of that dude's life has been like a little bit painful.
I can imagine those growing pains going from. I
don't want to imagine them. He must have been just in excruciating agony, while also at the time being a nationally ranked basketball player.
Yeah,
playing constantly.
Yeah, was he the top recruit?
I think he was the top recruit once he hit his full height, but I think he was. I think he was in like the top 25 when he was playing point guard. Because that's the whole thing with him, is that he was this talented as a smaller man.
Yeah. And then he just became massive.
Then he became a unicorn.
Yeah. I also feel like that's part of the reason why people always complain about how he's soft. He's like, doesn't bang. He does like not good at banging down low with like the Embiids of the world.
He never had to.
He never had. Yeah. I mean,
he was playing against point guards. Like that feels differently.
Yeah.
If Embiid's hitting you and like John Wall's hitting you, John Wall's a strong guy. He doesn't feel like Embiid does.
Not a lot of people do.
Yeah. I feel like maybe we should say pause, because now I feel like we're getting into like vaguely homoerotic territory. I don't want to assume anything about Embiid.
If I
But
could get banged by Embiid,
yeah, if he's anything like Serge Ibaka, and if you're watching this right now, I promise you should go look up Serge Ibaka sweatpants. Then Embiid's doing fine for himself.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Embiid's? I don't know if they're married or engaged. Just like petite little white girl.
No, is he engaged? I don't know.
I think he's engaged.
I remember there was a period where Shaq was dating a woman who could not have been taller than 5'3".
I remember that.
There's a picture of them from years and years ago of them in like the ocean together, and it's like, how?
She's like at his waist.
Yeah, like no one's having fun in this relationship.
Yeah,
she's not having fun. He's not having fun. Like their neighbors aren't having fun. The house isn't having fun.
Yeah,
the Superman bed isn't having fun. Coolest thing on earth.
Yeah,
I wanted one of those.
That was cool at the time. Yeah,
yeah, very 2003 cribs.
Yeah,
all right, let's move on. We're gonna talk about another big man, Rudy Gobert. Tracy McGrady had some pretty harsh words for him. He said, "What the fuck are you doing in the offseason? Like, what is your workout? I was so mad at Rudy when they were playing against the Rockets and Chris Paul was guarding him in the post. Bro, you're 7'2" and a point guard is guarding you. He had no moves." Rudy Gobert, not the first player, past or present, to have harsh words. Or sorry, Tracy McGrady, not the first player, past or present, to have harsh words for Rudy Gobert. Thoughts? Is this a fair take? Is this an unfair take? Is this, what we should expect from Rudy for the rest of his career?
Absolutely fair. 100% fair. I mean, what offensive skill does he have besides being tall? He can't do anything. He literally can't do anything.
He doesn't have a lot.
He can't shoot. He has we had a text conversation about Dwight Howard. Legitimately had some post moves in his younger days. Like,
sure. And I would argue Dwight's biggest problem after the back injury was that he tried to have more than those post moves.
Yeah.
And he tried to start thinking that he had a little bit more smoothness to his game than he actually did. And it was like, nah, man, just take the dump off and stay within 8 feet. Like, come on.
You're there's a lot of the Dwight interesting stuff that happened, but I absolutely fair. I thought the same thing about Ben Simmons. Like, what do you I want to know what your workout routine is. Like, what do you do? Because you think of the best of the best. Every year of LeBron's career for the first 10 years, a tangible thing that he got better at. It's every single year, tangible thing. Right. Like the best players, you're weak at something, then you get better. Like even Embiid, who is not quite at the best of the best, but every year has gotten legitimately better at something and worked hard for it. What has Rudy Gobert gotten better at in his career?
Spreading COVID.
Being annoying, just being one of the most annoying, everybody hating you as your teammate.
Being French. I'm going to do a little Ryan Russillo thing where I'm going to say that I have some pushback on it, but I'm also going to counter myself.
Okay.
My pushback on the Rudy Gobert taking all this fire from everybody is Ben Wallace didn't get any of this flack. And is that because Ben Wallace just looks more fearsome than Rudy Gobert? And I'm going to counter that immediately with Ben Wallace was not paid max money. And so you do have to have higher expectations for somebody getting paid that much. And I think part of that is just kind of the way contracts work in the league these days, that if you are an all NBA player, even if you have massive issues with your skill set, you're going to get paid max money.
Out. Yeah.
Whether it's an offensive issue or a defensive issue. And I think that Jazz team is a key example of that. You have Rudy Gobert with no offensive ability getting that kind of money. And then you have Donovan Mitchell with at one point defensive ability, but he seems to have completely lost any defensive ability, also getting that kind of money. So it's two sides of the same coin. No matter what, you had to pay these guys.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just taking off I don't think you're gonna get better at defense. So what are you doing in the offseason?
That's what I want to know. I legitimately want to know what his when he's all right, I'm going to the gym. What he's doing. I don't understand. And I will admit, I do think he gets probably too much flack specifically for the Jazz like because they have like the worst perimeter defense a team has ever seen. Like just
I've said this before. I don't blame Rudy Gobert for the Jazz's struggles. I think they're so much deeper than Rudy Gobert. He is a part of their struggles, but he's asked to do something that I don't think there's another player in the league. Maybe Giannis. If you just had like, because Giannis can do perimeter defense and post defense, but I don't even think he could make up for those Jazz's struggles.
No, I mean, there's no defender in the league. Like honestly, Rudy Gobert probably is the most equipped defender in the league to do what the Jazz defense asked him to do.
Right.
But I do think that like you're not like I think Rudy Gobert is one of those players who you cannot win deep in the playoffs with. Like you can't be a net negative on offense while also not being able to guard the perimeter. Like when a team goes small, like the Clippers just broke the Jazz last year, and the Jazz were down 2-1 to a Mavs team missing Luka, who was 100% of their offense. Like some pretty
literally the most heliocentric offense.
Yeah,
one of the most heliocentric offenses of all time. You have a couple of LeBron teams that I think compete with it, but that Mavs team was Luka, and the Jazz looked bad against them.
Really bad. And like it's this, and like I think that the most disappointing thing was it was the same exact formula that the Jazz did, or sorry, that the Clippers did against the Jazz the year before. The same exact formula. Like you just spread them out, pick and roll. Like either it's a wide open layup or it's someone from the corner crashes in and then you have a wide open shot on the outside. Like there was nothing unique and special about what the Mavs did versus what the Clippers did the year before, and the Jazz just had no answer for it. I don't think like that's coaching, that's perimeter defense, but I do think just the archetype of Rudy Gobert makes it really difficult to win with. Like we've talked about Embiid a ton, who is a significantly better player, but like he hasn't had any playoff success because it's just easy to neutralize a big man. Like as much as I love Embiid, it's easy to neutralize a big man.
Yeah. So, I will say people do it all the time with like what past player would you bring to the present and like how would they do? Obviously you do with like the Jordans and like the other like a Chuck. You say how would he do in the modern era, like pace and space? If Rudy Gobert, you don't even have to go that far back. If Rudy Gobert were to go back to the early 2000s or earlier, maybe even the mid 2000s during kind of like that Spurs dominance period.
Pistons, like talk about
Pistons,
Ben Wallace.
Spurs, slow, grinded out basketball. I think Rudy Gobert would have maybe 3 titles to his name at this point.
He would be.
I think he would have been the most impactful defender.
I agree. That I agree with. It's poor timing in terms of like where basketball is at,
and when his parents decided to have intercourse.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. But if he could just have had 15 years prior, I mean, he's better than Ben Wallace. Like the reason why Ben Wallace was undrafted, and it's just a different era. Like everybody,
and he also like Ben Wallace looked terrifying.
Yeah,
whereas Rudy Gobert is gangly and French. So
and like everybody,
there's a different expectation there.
Yeah, and he's just like Rudy Gobert is just like so soft. He's just like the softest guy in the world.
Yeah. No, look, I think he takes too much criticism, but I think there's also a lot of fair criticism for him. I think TMac, in terms of the criticism he gave him, in terms of his offensive game, I absolutely agree.
Totally
I think there's other stuff he doesn't quite deserve the criticism for, but we'll see. I mean, he's going to be paired with a big man who's going to ideally make up for his offensive shortcomings. He's going to be paired with one of the hottest young players in the league. We'll see what happens. I'm pretty excited. I'm more than any other team this upcoming year, and I don't think that they're going to like win a title or anything like that. I am excited to see what the Timberwolves look like with Rudy Gobert on that roster.
Yeah, I mean, they'll definitely be a good regular season team, but I think I was on record. I think that was a train wreck of a trade for the Timberwolves. Like the amount they gave up for someone who's 30 years old, and like this thought.
It's a train wreck for the rest of the league because now no one can trade their players.
Well, I mean that's
because
true.
He set the market.
Yeah, it's like and like I mean the Timberwolves, like, is their perimeter defense that much better than the Jazz? Like Karl Anthony Towns is not a good perimeter defender at all. He's not a good big man defender. He's not a good perimeter defender. D'Angelo Russell can't guard the perimeter. Like he's
D'Angelo Russell can't guard me. Like
exactly.
That's not really true. I'm sure he would fucking crush me into the dirt, but like he's atrocious.
He's worse than Donovan Mitchell, which is saying a lot. Like Anthony
Anthony
Edwards is
Edwards,
good.
however,
He's good. No, but like,
good, getting better.
yeah, but like Royce O'Neal was good on the
Yeah.
Jazz. Like he
Yeah.
was a good defender. So,
Yeah.
and then like this notion that, well, like Karl Anthony Towns can't protect the rim, so we had to get him a center. Well, like the easiest avenue for the Timberwolves to being an elite team is Karl Anthony Towns being an average defender, like not getting a Rudy Gobert level. Like I thought they should have made the DeJounte Murray trade. I thought that would have been a way better move for the Timberwolves than getting Rudy Gobert. He's younger.
I don't know if they had the assets to make that trade. I mean, I don't know if like, because at that point you got to figure out the whole D'Lo thing. You got to figure out, is Murray going to have the ball in his hands to a point where it's not going to work out for Ant? Like, I mean, I think he makes that team better, but I don't know if it was an available option, or maybe they should have just waited a little longer and maybe it was an option.
And yeah, I mean, they would have had to give up significantly less than what they gave up for Gobert.
Yeah.
And like, D'Angelo Russell shouldn't stop any like a move from being made. You know what I mean? No. Like he's not that good. And I
think it's just difficult because of how much he's paid.
Yeah.
Because like, he is another dude where it's like a super overvalued contract.
That's so much money. Yeah. I mean,
crazy money. I mean, and I'm not going to hate on him. He has one All-Star selection.
I think so. That Nets year, right?
I think he was an injury replacement. When he was on the Nets. He might not have been injury replacement. He might have been voted in by the coaches or something. I'm not sure, or by the fan vote. But it's another example of a guy who probably should not be getting max money, and you give him max money, and whether it's the team he's on now or whatever team you trade him to, it's going to hamstring that team.
Yeah,
because there are 15 to 20 guys that should be making that money, and there's 50 guys making that level.
Yeah, I mean the whole NBA salary cap. I don't know what the solution is, but like that could be an entire episode. Is like the broken NBA salary cap and like how
it probably will be the way things are trending.
Yeah,
probably will have to do an episode on.
When's the CBA deal up? Like, when do they have to renegotiate?
2020. I think negotiations are like kind of starting soon. I think it's 2024.
Okay, because we had the lockout. Like, what was that? 2012, right? When we had the lockout, and then they signed. And then
because it was during one of those heat seasons.
Yeah,
where they started on Christmas Day.
Yeah, and then. I think they signed a 10-year deal, then I think they just extended it for an additional couple of years. Like they just
because they were in a good position and everyone was making a ton of money. And now the player empowerment aspect of everything,
it's a little too much.
It's going in the wrong direction. And I was all for the player empowerment stuff, but it's hard to foresee some of these issues coming up because a lot of it's personalities and a lot of it's organizations and players not trying to win. And you can't account for things like that.
Yeah, I'm generally pro player. I think like, obviously the Ben Simmons, not even being a Sixers fan, like the general public was like Ben Simmons was in the wrong there. Like KD's in the wrong for what he's currently doing. Like I think James Harden, who's on the Sixers, I thought I am generally pro player empowerment, but I think it's almost swung too far the other way. And like, well, the players can't just do whatever they want. You know what I mean? Like there has to be that contracts have to mean something. And like, you do have to honor whatever, like you can't just say I'm going to take the money and then just like blow my way out of the situation in a year if I'm unhappy. Like there has to be some sort of middle ground there.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I think we talked about it last week. The fact that KD signed the extension and then essentially within 48 hours was like, hey, I want out.
Yeah.
That's I'm not going to say it's unforgivable because it's, two businesses engaged in a relationship, whatever they want to decide between them is between them. But where else is something like that going to happen for that level of money where somebody signs an agreement and that soon after signing the agreement is like, hey, it doesn't work for me anymore, but I still deserve this money.
I want my money. I just don't want to play for you anymore.
Yeah. I don't want it from you, but thanks for signing it because now someone else has to give it to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're like, I don't know, the CBA negotiations is going to be interesting because we also have like the cap smoothing thing, which they didn't do back in 2016, which led the Warriors to sign Durant. And they're like never good. Like every player that was a free agent before or after that year is like pissed because they missed their window,
They missed their window and everyone saw guys get absurd bags in 2016, like Jan Mahimi getting 4 years, $90 million to play for the Wizards, or
Timothy
Andrew Nicholson getting like 3 years, $50 million again to play for the Wizards. Like,
Timothy Grunfeld.
That's an perfect example. A guy who was essentially out of the league soon after getting absurd money because they were like, we have to spend this. It's like, no, you don't. As long as you hit the salary floor, you do not need to spend all
I
this money.
know. And like, and yeah, I mean, like the Luol wasn't Luol Deng the same thing? Like he like signed that massive deal and he never played again.
He signed a deal that at the time I think made sense, and then the Lakers were like, "We're not going to be like we don't need you because we want to develop our young guys, but we don't want to waive you because we don't want to pay you all at once." So they stretched him, if I remember correctly,
For like 5 years or something, right?
Yeah, yeah. It turned his. I mean, like he ended up making more money that way, but it was the end of his career, and he was like open about the fact that he wanted to play, but if he does play, like no one's going to trade for him because he's not a value contract,
Yeah.
and then he doesn't get that money. Like he'd have to give the money back, and like I could love something a ton. I could love it more than anything in the world. But if you say you can have this thing or you can have $90 million over the next 5 years, I'm just not going to do that thing for the next 5 years.
Yeah, especially like when they have a limited window to make all that money. Like obviously,
Yeah.
like their careers are shorter than the average, like the normal
And Luol
non-athlete.
Deng, like a lot of guys in his position, insanely charitable human being.
Yeah,
Was giving away the money as quickly as he made it, like building orphanages and wells and shit, like humanitarian. So I'm team him getting that money. The rest of these dudes, they got paid in 2016. I don't feel great about it, but it is what it is.
yeah. Now they're, I mean, now they're not going to let that happen again because they just smoothed the cap over however many years.
Yeah, yeah. Ideally, they're not going to let it happen again, but the Warriors being streets ahead or whatever, however they refer to themselves,
light years ahead.
Light years ahead, yeah. Streets ahead is from Community. Clearly, I'm streets behind. Yeah, being light years ahead, they'll figure something else out. Let's hit a few other news pieces really quickly, and then we'll do a take for the week, and then we'll get out of here. Talking about our dogs clearly got us in a chatty mindset. Richard Jefferson said that LeBron James not a Laker great. Agree or disagree?
I think that's fair. I mean, what he's been there for 4 years. He's obviously a Laker great. I mean, winning one title for the Lakers means less than winning one title for any other organization except for like the Celtics.
You hear that, LeBron? Come to the Wizards. Come to the Wizards.
If he won a title, I mean, he obviously won one for the Cavs. He's a legend there. The Heat is whatever. But like, I mean, if you like the Sixers, which was a thing back in whenever he signed, if he had won a title with the Sixers, like, I mean, they would have built like we have a statue for Rocky Balboa, who's a fictional human being. Philly would have created a state one for Nick Foles,
which is a really big indictment on Philadelphia
sports.
that you have a statue for Rocky Balboa and not a lot of the other really, really important, like particularly black athletes that have come through Philadelphia.
I mean,
give me some more Joe Louis statues.
I mean, I think Dr. J has a statue. He's like a Sixers legend.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. J deserving of a statue, absolutely.
Yeah, but no, Dan. But to get back to the point, I think that's fair. I don't think that's that hot of a take. I mean, he's been there 4 years. Like, people aren't going to remember LeBron as being a Laker, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on this. I wish I could push back on it and go the other way. He is a great, of course. I have him. I have a top 5 of all time where none of them are number 1 and none of them are number 5. It's my stupid thing that I do. He's on that top 5. But he's not a Laker great. He's missed playoffs 2 out of the 4 years he's been there. He was a first-round exit one of the years, and the other year he won a title. Great, awesome. But you didn't win an MVP when you were there. Came very close to winning a scoring title, didn't do it. I do think, and I will stop myself very quickly, that COVID year where the league shut down for 6 weeks, I think that there's an argument to be made that if the league had not resumed play, and he wouldn't have gotten the title, so it would have been 1-for-1. There's an argument that he would have won MVP based on how that team was doing right as the league shut down and how LeBron was playing. Whereas Giannis at the time, the presumptive favorite, he was hurt. The Bucks were no longer on that 70-win pace that they were on prior, and they looked very mortal. And the Lakers beat them.
Like right before the shutdown.
Yeah, they beat them and they beat the Clippers. And LeBron was very clearly the best player on the court. And you could tell that they were coming on. They were the West 1 seed. I think there's a chance he would have had another MVP, but again, he wouldn't have had the championship. So you're taking something to give something.
So you mean if the NBA just never returned, like if that was
the end of the season? Yep.
I still think probably because like voting took place before, like the bubble didn't have any impact on voting, right?
No, I think it did. I'm pretty sure it did.
I'm
I
pretty
thought
sure
they voted. Did it not? I thought they voted at the end of the bubble.
I'm pretty sure that like anything that happened in the bubble wasn't going to count towards like rookie of the year, MVP, six man, like anything like that. Because I remember having this argument back when it happened because like it didn't have any impact on like voting, but like obviously the stats still counted. So I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like they almost
Yeah.
half-assed it. But I'm almost we can look it up to confirm, but I'm almost positive voting was not considered. The bubble was not considered in voting for the
Yeah.
awards that year. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Honestly, the whole stats counting thing is super weird too.
Because
Like
yeah,
we just
because
mentioned, because like
the team just had an extra 8 games. Like
some teams did,
yeah, that's
yeah,
what I mean. Yeah,
and
some teams did.
yeah, and obviously you differentiate regular season and playoff stats, but you didn't do it for the bubble. But it's such a unique situation that like it would have affected like a guy like LeBron who's going for all time counts on certain things. Like, why would you penalize him for something that really wasn't under his control?
Yeah,
I can go both ways on that one. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. They also still ended up losing games that season. Like, it wasn't an 82 game season, nor was the next season.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he already lost ground, and then he's had what, one or two lockout years. So if you're from that era of basketball, you've already missed a bunch of games. I'm kind of fine with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
weird, but I understand why they did it.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we're gonna look back and I don't know, like what the bubble is gonna be like this, like it's like its own thing. So it kind of makes sense why it wasn't counted, but stats were, I don't know. It's a weird time. I mean, we're in a pandemic. It's a
Yeah,
weird time.
very weird time. And I'm tired of people saying Mickey Mouse ring, but whatever, it is what it
Yeah,
is.
did you see the I think it was Dion Waiters, like someone like tweeted at him. I was like, why does everybody call the bubble ring like a Mickey Mouse ring? And Dion Waiters like, I have no idea. That shit was hard. Like if anything,
I did not see that, but every player has talked about how that was the most difficult thing they've done. Like, it was the most pure form of basketball.
yeah.
No crowds, everyone was in shape. All they did was like, I don't know if they were drug testing during it, so I assume a lot of them were getting high, but like they were just fucking IG thoughts and playing basketball. And that's why you saw all these role players have like 50-point outbursts, because you were seeing their talent level without the pressure of anybody around. But it was like such a perfect collection of talent.
Yeah. And like, I mean, Anthony Davis, he'll that's the best he's ever shot was.
He'll never shoot like that again.
Yeah. Yeah. I never understood the whole like Mickey Mouse ring because like the Lakers were clearly the best team that entire season.
Yeah.
And then they won. And
That's
then they won.
that's the big thing about it. No one missed out more than the Lakers.
Exactly.
Because they would have had overall 1 seed home court throughout the playoffs, and they didn't get it.
Exactly. It's and like in the Heat, like people were like, oh, we're like where the Heat were a 4 seed or whatever that made the playoffs. But like the Heat team that was in the bubble was pretty significantly different than the regular season Heat team.
Right.
Like they signed Jay Crowder, they signed, was it Iguodala? Like someone played decent minutes for them in the bubble that didn't in the regular season. I can't remember who, but I remember there were two players. I know Jay Crowder was one because he was a late addition.
I don't recall. It might have been Iguodala, because that was the whole year of the Grizzlies
Yeah.
like beef. But I don't remember if he ended up playing more minutes in the playoffs or something like that. I don't know.
I think he did, but either way,
I'm willing to believe you and trust that you're right. And if you're wrong, call us out in the comments.
yeah, there you go. But either way, like, I mean, the Bucks had flamed out in the playoffs before. Like that wasn't that what I don't know. And like in the Heat and the Celtics were just in the conference finals, literally right now this past season. So I never understood. And also, sorry, I know like we're on agreement here, so we're more just arguing with the people making the argument than with each other. But everybody was dealt with the same hand. It wasn't like the Lakers like had an advantage that other teams didn't. Like you said, they were at a disadvantage because they didn't get home court.
Everyone had 3 months to get healthy, and with that being the case, the Lakers run roughshod over everybody else. Like, it wasn't competitive. They just crushed everybody.
Yeah, I mean that Lakers team.
There was like that game one against was it the Rockets? Harden and Westbrook. I think they won game one potentially.
Yeah,
and
Lakers
everyone was
lost.
like, "Oh, shit, like there's breaks in the armor," and then the Lakers just beat the dog shit out of them.
Yeah, the Lakers lost game one of the first two series, Portland
Yeah.
and the Rockets, and then they won 4 straight.
And all these pundits and everybody online was like, "Oh, look, this team's really not that good," and they just crushed them. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay to lose one game. It's not a big deal.
That's a typical LeBron in the playoffs. He always loses game one. He always loses game one.
He historically has taken it easy in game one because he's feeling everything out and he's not going to, try and blow his shot, winning probably the least impactful game in a series. Obviously, not the case for that Warriors Cavs series in 2018.
Yeah,
that may have been the most impactful game of the series, but he knew that was like his shot to steal one.
Yeah, with the J-Hole JR thing.
Yeah, and that's arguably the greatest playoff or game performance in the finals of all time.
Yeah, so that was amazing. He was
unconscious, unbelievable.
Yeah, freaking JR. And then didn't he break his hand after because it came out after that he punched a wall.
Punched a clipboard or
was it a clipboard?
I think he punched it couldn't have been a clipboard. A clipboard wouldn't have broken his hand. Maybe he punched a whiteboard.
Maybe a whiteboard. Yeah, that's probably it.
Or
probably a whiteboard.
Here's an idea.
He punched JR
and they just didn't want to tell anybody. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe. Wasn't JR on that bubble team? Didn't they win? Didn't he win a ring?
I think so. I'm pretty sure he was.
Him and Dion Waiters.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were looking for a scoring touch. Yeah. And I don't really think he played that much, but
I don't think he was. At least in the finals, I don't think he played at all. But
yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. LeBron James, not a Laker great. All-time great, not a Laker great. Took us a long time to get to there. Kevin Durant prepared to go scorched earth on the Nets per Mark Stein. Durant has come out and said that this is bullshit.
Yeah,
I don't care about this. I mean, I feel like it's all back ended dealings, like everybody leaking stuff in the media.
Back channel negotiations. It came out that the Nets asked for both Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Yeah. And then Durant came out and said that he would be open to playing with Harden again, like trying to get leverage back. It's
that's a big one. That's a big one because of how everything ended in Brooklyn for Harden's time.
Yeah, it never seemed like Durant. I don't know. You can never get a read on Durant because he also doesn't seem like he was pissed at Kyrie, but he never seemed to he seemed to understand where Harden was coming from.
Sure. I think most people, if they're willing to sit down and look at it, understand where Harden's coming from. He came to this team to be 1/3 of a big three. Durant was hurt, he was hurt part of the time. Yeah, Kyrie Irving was straight up not playing because of a personal choice. And Harden played injured in the playoffs and then was expected to be ready for day one of the next season and was clearly a shell of himself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit nicer to James Harden than I am, and even though he plays for the Sixers.
Sure.
But yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, this whole Kevin Durant thing, it's going to be I thought the Ben Simmons situation last year was terrible. This Kevin Durant thing, unless he reports and then it's kind of over and then none of this matters. But just the back channel leaking of and then people just saying literally whatever they're fed,
Yeah. NBA media is ridiculous. It's all just guys getting paid and getting scoops and all that.
Pretty exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think this is as bad, and it's because my team's not part of it, so it doesn't matter. I don't think this is as bad as the Ben Simmons stuff because I do think Kevin Durant is going to play.
He'll play.
I think playing matters a lot to him. I think the joy of the game matters a lot to him. I think even though he says it doesn't, I think legacy matters to him. I think getting out there and winning matters to him.
Yeah.
I don't think Ben Simmons and Ben Simmons, whether the back injury is fully legitimate or not, who knows, could be just a nagging thing. I don't know. But I don't think Ben Simmons loves basketball the way Kevin Durant so obviously loves basketball. That this is a bigger media circus, but I don't think it's as bad of a situation.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And Ben Simmons camp leaked a lot of malarkey that whole season trying to get him traded. They leaked a lot of really thank you. A lot of just asinine stuff that made Ben look really bad.
Yeah.
And I think Ben cares. I think Ben likes the spotlight. I don't think Ben loves basketball.
What was the term that somebody used in a tweet about him? They called him a young socialite or something like that.
I didn't see that, but
I think he did. They said that he described himself as a young socialite, and it was nope, no 24-year-old man or whatever he is going to describe themselves that way.
Yeah.
It's so clearly you editorializing and calling him that.
Yeah. I never saw that.
Kim Kardashian's never been I'm a young socialite. That's fucking stupid. People don't talk like that.
Report from August 2021. Ben Simmons doesn't want to go to Toronto or Portland because he's a young socialite.
Yeah. Come on. What are you doing? All right, last piece of news. This one's yours.
This is just a legendary quote from Zion, who referenced Naruto, and I guess he did an interview for GQ and talked about his love. GQ, there you go. That's
GQ and Naruto right behind you.
Yeah.
This is very fitting. This is very fitting.
That's true. He talked about his love for Naruto in an interview with GQ. He said like that 80% of the play. I mean, we talked about this before we recorded, but 80% of the players in the league are into anime.
Yeah, and that might be underselling it. We were talking about it. We were like, yeah, you probably have like the LeBron James and the guys his age that maybe just because of like when they grew up, maybe all they saw was like a Dragon Ball Z or something like that when they were like teenagers, I guess they would have been. But everyone our age, like anybody born, in 89, 90, 91 on down, grew up with like Toonami in their life. They grew up with like Saturday morning cartoons, half of which were anime, like the Yu-Gi-Ohs and the Pokemons and all that stuff. That's anime. That's what kids grew up with.
Full Metal.
Yeah, Adult Swim, watching like Full Metal Alchemist, Bleach, all that stuff.
Cowboy Bebop.
Exactly. That's what these guys grew up with. And I mean, NBA players reference NBA players, MMA fighters, football players. They all reference anime all the time.
I forget who. I think it was Kevin Porter Jr. had Akatsuki basketball shoes. Did you see that?
That's dope. I haven't seen that, but that's dope.
Look it up. I can't remember if it was Kevin Porter Jr., but someone had Akatsuki basketball, and it was badass. But the exact quote from Zion Williamson is, no matter what the world is saying, I have to remember that I am who I am and stay true to that. That's what Naruto did, and that's what I'm going to do. I mean, goosebumps just reading that line.
I believe that you have goosebumps. I'm not the biggest Naruto guy in the world. Like, I loved it. I did love it. I'm not going to hate it. He's not my favorite protagonist in all of anime.
Naruto, the character.
I'm a Luffy guy. I'm a One Piece guy, but
fair. Actually, that's actually I haven't watched. It's like such a daunting thing because I've never
1,000+ episodes.
Yeah,
and it's not done yet. I don't even know if I can recommend it because it's so much. 1,000+ episodes.
Yeah. To be fair, Naruto isn't my favorite character. I just think the anime itself is incredible.
Sure. I mean, it slaps. Yeah, it absolutely slaps. It's one of the big three, one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
Totally get loving it.
What's the big three? One Piece, Naruto, and
Bleach.
Is it really? Oh.
Yeah, because all three of them were coming out in Weekly Shonen Jump at the same time. And they were basically like the heir apparent to Dragon Ball Z. And I guess maybe a little bit Yu-Gi-Oh! As like the next ones up, the ones that were generating just absurd sales. Both, I mean, honestly, primarily as manga because most of the money for that industry is made from the manga, not from the anime. But they were also huge anime at the time.
I'm gonna have to dive in on Bleach. I haven't watched that one yet either.
Oh man, highly recommend. Of the three, easily has the most drip in terms of like the fashion and like the look. Everyone looks so fucking cool in there. Like it's the perfect thing for like teenagers, particularly teenage boys, who are like, yeah, this shit just looks dope.
It just looks awesome.
Oh my god, it was a really nice transition from like Super Saiyan and Dragon Ball Z and all that to then move immediately into Bleach, because like Naruto, like very colorful, very, particularly when they're kids, like it's kind of childish. One Piece, very childish in terms of the aesthetic. It definitely gets more like sexualized and adult as time goes on, but like when it came out, it was very like, it just looked like a kid's cartoon. Bleach was always like, yo, we're violent and everyone's wearing black and everyone has swords and everyone's a badass.
Yeah, Naruto, didn't say visually tried to be anything special.
No, I mean, they also arguably had like the best fight animation of all of them with like the hand signs and everything. That was like how creative they were willing to get. Like Bleach eventually turns a lot into like what Dragon Ball Z was, where it's like power level versus power level. And it's just bigger and bigger like attacks. One Piece is probably the most like creative in terms of what people do because it's all just like weird. They do weird things with powers that you wouldn't expect. Naruto is like the choreography, I think, is the best.
Yeah,
and it looks the most visually interesting when they're doing like active things.
Yeah,
including running with their arms behind their back.
The Naruto run,
the Naruto run, iconic.
Yeah, the best, the best.
If Zion Williamson comes back and starts running like that on the court, the Pelicans are going to win the title. I'm
And then
saying it right now.
he'll never get hurt again. His foot trouble will
Yeah,
be over.
yeah, absolutely. All right, one more thing. We're going to do a take for the week. We don't have Ferentinos here, so it's just going to be you and I. And we've been in agreement on pretty much everything tonight, so we might be in agreement on this. And like we just mentioned, Zion Williamson coming back this year, hopefully going to be healthy. Between him and Ja Morant, who is going to have the better year. Ja Morant just turned 23 about a week ago. Zion Williamson, I think, is about to turn 23. Who do we think is going to have the better year? I'll give you the stats real quick. Zion in 2021 had 27, 7, and 4 with 1 steal on 2.7 turnovers per game, played 61 games. Ja Morant, 2022, he was in MVP consideration, probably like, I think, 5th or 6th in MVP consideration.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Only played 57 games, so actually less than Zion played in 2021. He had 27, 6, and 7, also with 1 steal, a little bit more on the turnover front. He had 3.4 turnovers per game.
And that Zion was the second COVID year, right? So 61.
It was the shortened seasons. I think he played 61 out of
72.
72, yeah. So he almost played the entire season.
I didn't realize he played that many games. I excuse me. I first need to get clarified. Better year in terms of raw stats, in terms of what are we basing it off of?
I don't necessarily want to say who's going to carry their team further because I think the Grizzlies are a better team, but the Pelicans are also sneaky deep and they might have a really good year. I don't want to say raw stats. Let's say MVP consideration. Who's going to have more votes for MVP at the end of the year? Because I think they're both they're the next generation. If Zion's healthy, I think he's going to get votes. If Ja is healthy, I think he's going to get votes. I think, based on this past year, a lot of people would probably pick him, but Zion arguably is better. I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough. I probably would disagree. I love both these guys. I love Ja. I think it's like the energy of Ja not like sucking up to, like he said, the Dan Edwards vibe of like, no, like actually I'm the best player on the court and like I'm going to play like it. I think it's cool. I appreciated how like the Grizzlies just like are a young team that are just like young and feisty and showed up and like didn't back down to anyone and like wanted all of the smoke.
Yes,
I think Ja might regret wanting all the smoke from Draymond because
apparently they're good. I think they were like tweeting at each other the other day.
I think they're tight. It was just like they're just like talking shit.
Ja also, let's call it what it is. Ja's got Twitter fingers. Talks about like shooting people and stuff. Like,
he does.
You grew up in like the suburbs.
He's a typical millennial, like just
another big anime guy. I think.
Is he?
He let the bleach get to his head.
And I think the Grizzlies are going to be better. I still think that Zion, coming off of the missed year, like he's not going to play back to backs. He's going to get a ton of load management. Ja sneakily has been unable to stay healthy. Like he got hurt in the playoffs. He, like you said, like had multiple long stint absences with a knee injury this past year.
Which the team was arguably better without him.
Yeah, they were. I think that like it's going to be one of those things where Ja had. I keep saying Ja had the year where he like elevated to superstardom, even as good as Zion was 2 years ago. Like he didn't get that same level of attention because the Pelicans weren't good. Like if they were as good as the Grizzlies were this past year, then it would have been a totally different story. But I think it's going to be one of those things where like Zion plays, I don't know, 75% of the games at best, and then that's like 2 years from now is when we have like the revenge tour from Zion is my prediction there.
Okay. I'm going to go in the other direction. I'm going to say I think Zion's going to have a better year. I think Ja's 2022 pure counting stats is a better year than Zion's 2021. I don't necessarily know if Ja is going to be the healthier player between them, and that's a huge question.
That's fair. Yeah.
They both, 61 first 57, all things are relatively equal there, although Ja could have played in significantly more games than Zion could in 2021. If you look at Zion's numbers within like 12 feet and like his finishing around the rim and his layup percentages and his dunk percentages and all that, he's quite literally one of the best under the rim players. Like I think he might be the best outside of Giannis, LeBron, and Shaquille O'Neal of the past 20 years. Like he has just insane finishing percentages. Again, the big question is he healthy? Is his weight down? Are the stipulations in his contract that he has to keep his weight down? Are they going to be a big deal? Are they going to work to have him be a healthier player? I don't think either one of these guys is going to break 60 games. I do think it's probably going to come down to which of them is healthier. When I did this show a year ago, when we did our preseason predictions, me and Matt Ferentinos, I said I thought Ja Morant was going to win an MVP before Luka Doncic does. And I still kind of think that's true because so much of MVP is how good your team is. And I think both of these guys probably have a better team than Luka does. Ja's lack of health this past year is a worrying sign. If his balls to the wall style is going to have him out that often, I'm really worried that he's going to end up going the Derrick Rose route. And so I'm going to say Zion's going to have a better year. Now, I'm not necessarily going to say that he's going to win an MVP before Ja or anything like that. But I think this year, the 2022-2023 season, Zion is going to have a better season than Ja Morant.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about being concerned about health, I would say like Zion is much more concerning from that end of things because he missed half of his first year with the meniscus or whatever it was, whatever the knee thing, I forget what it was, that like kind of the same thing this year, kept getting delayed. He finally did return and hit like 6 threes in that game, like something like obscene in his first return. But I think if we're just looking at health like concerns moving forward, I would still say Zion is like a significantly bigger concern than Ja moving forward. But I mean, that Pelicans team can be legitimately good. Like I love Herb Jones. Herb Jones is what people wanted Matisse Thybulle to be. Like legitimately can be a incredible, impactful defender.
Yeah. He's going to be an impact. I mean, he already is. And I think he's going to continue to be, assuming he stays healthy. I'm really excited to see what that team does. I'm really excited to see what both these teams does.
I agree.
Grizzlies and the Pelicans are both, people said this about the Timberwolves a few years back. They're spooky. And that's the word I'd use to describe it. There's a lot of the young talent. There's a lot of potential there. I'm excited to see what happens. Got to jump off of this one. So we're wrapping up right now. We'll talk more about Zion and Ja throughout the season. Obviously, the two of the superstars of the league, the two of the rising stars. But appreciate anybody that tuned in for this episode. Make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram at Give Go Show. Make sure you're also following us on TikTok at The Give and Go Show. And if you're not currently subscribed, make sure you click that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below about how you feel about the Zion versus Ja debate. And if there's anything you want us to talk about next week or in a future week, feel free to leave it in a comment or hit us up on Twitter. Modai, always a pleasure. We're going to work on that nickname for you.
Yeah, that's great. We're
going to find one soon. We're going to poll the audience and we're going to make it happen.
I look forward to it. It's just Matt's just so boring.
I don't know if I agree, but we'll find something for you. All right, we will see you guys next week.
All right, see you guys.